Everyone is talking about starlings. Starlings came to this country on a passenger liner from Europe. 100 of them were deliberately released in Central Park, and from those 100 descended all of our countless millions of starlings today. According to Edwin Way Teale, their coming was the result of one man's fancy. That man was Eugene Schieffelin, a wealthy New York drug manufacturer. His curious hobby was the introduction into America of all the birds mentioned in William Shakespeare. The birds adapted to their new country splendidly. When John Cooper Powys lived in the United States, he wrote about chickadees stealing crumbs from his favourite flock of starlings. Around here they're not so popular. Instead of quietly curling for sleep, one by one, here and there in dense shrubbery, as many birds do, starlings roost together in vast hordes and droves. They have favourite roosting sites to which they return winter after winter. Apparently southwest Virginia is their idea of Miami Beach. In Waynesboro, where the starlings roost in the woods near the Coiner Springs area, residents can't go outside for any length of time, or even just to hang laundry because of the stink. It will knock you over, the droppings and the lice. Starlings are notoriously difficult to control. The story is told of a man who was bothered by starlings roosting in a large sycamore near his house. He said he tried everything to get rid of them, and finally took a shotgun to 3 of them and killed them. When asked if that discouraged the birds, he reflected for a minute, leaned forward and said confidentially, "Those 3 it did." Radford, Virginia had a little stink of its own a few years ago. Radford had starlings the way a horse has flies, and in similarly unapproachable spots. Wildlife biologists estimated the Radford figure at 150,000 starlings. The people complained of the noise, the stench, the inevitable whitewash effect, and the possibility of an epidemic of an exotic dust-borne virus disease. Finally, in January 1972, various officials and biologists got together and decided that something needed to be done. After studying the feasibility of various methods, they decided to kill the starlings with foam. The idea was to shoot a special detergent foam through hoses at the roosting starlings on a night when weathermen predicted a sudden drop in temperature. The foam would penetrate the birds' waterproof feathers and soak their skins. Then, when the temperature dropped, the birds would drop too, having quietly died of exposure. Meanwhile, before anything actually happened, the papers were having a field day. Every crazy, up and down every mountain, had his shrill say. The local bird society screamed for blood, for starlings' blood. Starlings, after all, compete with native birds for food and nesting sites. Other people challenged the mayor of Radford, the Virginia Tech Wildlife Bureau, the newspaper's editors, and all its readers in Radford and everywhere else, to tell how they would like to freeze to death inside a bunch of bubbles. The Wildlife Bureau went ahead with its plan. The needed equipment was expensive, and no one was quite sure if it would work. Sure enough, on the night they sprayed the roosts, the temperature didn't drop far enough. Out of the 150,000 starlings they hoped to exterminate, they only got 3,000. Somebody figured out that the whole show had cost citizens $2 per dead starling. That is, in effect, the story of the Radford starlings. The people didn't give up at once, however. They mulled and fussed, giving the starlings a brief reprieve, and then came up with a new plan. Soon, one day, when the birds returned at sunset to their roost, the wildlife managers were ready for them. They fired shotguns, loaded with multiple high-powered explosives, into the air. Bang went the guns. The birds settled down to sleep. The experts went back to their desks and fretted and fumed some more. At last they brought out the ultimate weapon. Recordings of Starlings' distress calls. Failure. Yike. Ouch. Help, went the recordings. Snore, went the birds. That, in toto, is the story of the Radford Starlings. They still thrive. Our valley starlings thrive too. They plod morosely around the grass, under the feeder. Other people apparently go to great lengths to avoid feeding them. Starlings are early to bed and late to rise, so people sneak out with grain and suet before dawn for early rising birds and whisk it away at the first whiff of a starling. After sunset, when the starlings are safely to roost, bothering somebody else, they spread out the suet and grain once again. I don't care what eats the stuff.